Hi everyone, this is Evan Langert with the Langert Commercial Group. Today let's talk a little bit about construction exhibits in leases. In a lot of lease situations, the landlord is going to perform some level of construction or work in the premises before it gets turned over to the tenant for occupancy or for the tenant to do its work in some cases. Now, the landlord's work can be pretty simple. They might just be repainting the inside of the premises, or they might be replacing the carpeting, or maybe they're just replacing the chipped, stained, broken, or missing ceiling tiles in an office. In those situations, you have a rather simple scenario. However, on the other side of the coin, you have what we often refer to as a turnkey build-out. In a turnkey build-out, most typically, the landlord is going to demolish everything that's in the premises, or most everything that's in the premises, and is going to build the space out to the smallest detail in accordance with an agreed on set of plans, specifications, work letter, what have you, that the landlord and tenant have agreed to. Depending on the size of the space, the use of the space, maybe it's a complex medical office situation or a high-end law office or a lab space or something along that line. These can be very, very complicated situations. So in each of these situations, you need to have one or more exhibits to your lease that clearly spell out what work the landlord is going to do, and these need to be in great detail. Let's get over to the early situation that I talked about where they're not doing much. It can be as simple as just a piece of paper that says landlord's work, exhibit D, or whatever it happens to be in your lease. Line item 1, landlord will repaint the interior of the premises with building standard paint as chosen by tenant. Line item 2, landlord will recarpet the interior of the premises with building standard carpet as chosen by tenant. Line item 3, landlord will replace any missing, broken, chipped, or stained ceiling tiles. So this is a rather simple exhibit for a rather simple situation. However, did you notice that I put building standard in there for the paint and for the carpet? Did you notice that I put as chosen by tenant for those two things? Because even in these simple exhibits, there's room for disputes. Is the landlord planning to put in the lowest grade carpet and the lowest grade paint that it can? And maybe the tenant's up here expecting something very, very nice, the Taj Mahal of paint, the Taj Mahal of carpet. So there can be disputes even in this little simple situation. What building standard does is most landlords have a level, a type, a brand of paint, a level, a type, a brand of carpet, or two brands that they use in the spaces in their building. And so a tenant can come and they can choose a different color or a different style from the carpet from the landlord's building standard offerings. Now, if you're a tenant and you want nicer carpet or you want nicer paint, you can typically get them. It's just that the landlord is only going to pay for the cost of the building standard items. If you want something that costs more, you're going to pay the delta between the cost of that and the cost of the building standard items. Now, when you get into the more complex build-out situations, a turnkey build-out, you can have very complicated drawings, plans, specifications, work letters, and other exhibits, construction. So again, one, these should be very, very detailed. One rule that I abide by is if it's not in there, you're not going to get it. And I've seen many situations where a tenant says, well, I shook the landlord's hand and they said they were going to do this and they're going to do that, but it's not in the work letter, it's not in the plans and specifications. And at the end of the day, in fact, the landlord does not do it. Tenant's very upset. Sometimes it's an innocent situation where the parties just had a conversation and one party took something different away from that conversation than the other one did. Other times it's a little more nefarious than that. I've been in the inside of some large landlord organizations, particularly when I was an attorney. Sometimes someone goes out there and promises something that they think they can promise, and then somebody above them or two levels above them is discussing something with them and says, well, we're not going to do that. You better not have promised them that. And then the person's in between a rock and a hard place. They either get to go back to you and say, no, I never said that, or they get to go back to their boss. Maybe their job's on the line, maybe their standing in the company's on the line, and say to the boss, you know, I'm sorry, I did promise them that. So when put in that situation, a whole lot of people, knowing that they told you something, are going to say, I never told you that. So again, if it's not in there, you don't have it. You're not going to get it. That's something that I think you need to assume. The other thing is, you really, in this situation, need to have a construction professional involved if it's a complex build-out situation. The reason is, your attorney's an attorney. I'm an attorney, been one for a long time. Your broker's a broker. I'm a broker. I've been one for a long time. For an attorney, for a broker, I know a pretty good amount about construction. However, I don't know very much about construction when compared to a good and experienced general contractor. Now, these exhibits are fraught with detail, timelines that the contractor has to meet, forms which the drawings or the submissions have to take, different types of insurance that the contractor has to take out. And I know I'm switching a little bit over when some of these concepts into work that the tenant's going to be doing, but now I'm just more talking about work letters, because work letters can also include the landlord's work and they can include the tenant work. Anyway, sorry for any confusion about that. Also, I've seen in work letters where the contractor has to waive their right to put a lien on the building if they don't get paid for the work that they've done. And they have to do that up front before they've even done the work. Well, a lot of contractors don't want to do that or won't do that. So if you don't have a contractor that's reviewed this and said, yes, these are reasonable timelines for you to turn around the approval of drawings and things along that line, yes, these are reasonable amounts of insurance to be required. Yes, these are reasonable formats for these things to take. And yes, I'm willing to waive my right to lien the property. You'll go ahead and execute the lease. It'll have those requirements in the exhibits, and you'll go out to contractors and you'll find out that you've got problems. So you don't want to do that. I know people don't like to typically spend more money than they have to. And there are some attorneys, every attorney comes from some background. Maybe they were straight out of law school, or maybe they came over and they have a very strong construction background. There aren't very many of those, at least not leasing attorneys. A lot of them are in construction litigation. And so we are not experts in construction, not to the point where you should rely on us alone. You need to have an expert, a contractor that really knows their stuff, look at these documents. At any rate, as always in these videos, it is not my intention to give out any specific brokerage or legal advice to anybody. I'm just talking about general concepts and general things that you need to look out for. If you want to talk about your specific situation, please give me a call. I'm at 443-529-0505. Again, 443-529-0505. You can also email me. I'm at elangert@thelangertgroup.com. That's elangert@thelangertgroup.com. Have a great day, and God bless.